Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I am really looking forward to this webinar. I'm just going to share some slides to start us off. Um, Can everybody see this? If you can give me a nod or a thumbs up. Perfect. So today's webinar is called Hero Healing Empathy Redemption Oasis. Nurturing Center presents the Healing Forest Initiative. Our presenters are Jenny Bonham-Carter, Judith Foster, and Jim Recht. And I am Shira Collings. I'll be the moderator. I'm the grant officer at the National Empowerment Center. This webinar was developed in part under grant number SM082648 from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the Center for Mental Health Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And this webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be posted to the National Empowerment website at power2u.org. That's the number 2 and the letter U. Also, if you don't want to be on the recording, please feel free to turn your video off, and then your video won't be recorded. Closed captioning is available. You can click on the CC or more to view closed captioning. You can also view the entire transcript of the meeting by clicking on Show Transcript. And at the end of the webinar, there will be a Q&A session. You're invited to ask questions at any time through the chat function, and we'll do our best to answer all questions. If we do not answer your question, you're welcome to email us at info4, that's the number 4, at power2u.org, and we will do our best to get back to you. You're also welcome to make comments using the chat function. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenters, and then I'll turn it over to them. So Judith Foster is the founder of the H.E.R.O Nurturing Center, a nonprofit organization located in the heart of Boston, Massachusetts. She has been a community activist and organizer for over 20 years. She also previously works with the office of the United States Senator John Kerry. Judith has been a gardener from a young age in Jamaica. In 2009, working with the Green Party, Judith coordinated the Reinvest in Yourself conference at the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center in Boston, where Frances Moore Lappe, Bill Mckibben, and Mel King spoke to promote environmental and food justice. In 2022, Judy was awarded the Hero Among Us Award by the Boston Celtics and the Norfolk County Heroes Award for community building and public service from the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office in Massachusetts. She has also been an advocate for the healing power of nature, including her support for S791, an act relative to nature as a prescription in the Massachusetts State Legislature. As an organizer, mom, and social justice activist, Judy's passion lies in teaching and promoting healing, empathy, redemption, and an environment in which we can all thrive. She is a public speaker, certified by the Labor Guild School of Labor Management Relations. She is also certified in the curriculum of ESPERE, Schools of Forgiveness and Reconciliation. Lastly, she is a lover of Mother Nature and all that she offers. And um, Jenny Bonham-Carter and her family moved to Summitville, Massachusetts from her home country, Sweden, in 2016. A social worker for 25 years, Jenny has also lived and worked in the UK, Burkina Faso, and France. In 2008, she began studying human rights, which led her to a master's degree in the field of interfaith youth work. Having moved to the US, Jenny rapidly got involved with her children's school's PTA, engaged with and became the vice chair of Cooperative Metropolitan Ministries Interfaith Organization for a few years. Through the interfaith field, she found her way to the Poor People's Campaign Massachusetts chapter, for which she runs the music and arts. Through CMM, Jenny got to know H.E.R.O Nurturing Center founder and president Judith Foster, loved the work and mission, and started to work for the organization in 2020. Jenny sits on the board of Massachusetts Baptist Multicultural Ministries and was sworn into the Somerville Human Rights Commission in 2025. Jenny does song leading for other organizations such as CREW, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather, and MAPPA, Massachusetts Peace Action. Among many musical adventures are Jenny's interfaith and social justice group, What the World Needs Now, Interfaith Coalition Singers, and her Somerville band, West of Willow. Since 2016, Jenny is the music teacher at the Swedish School of Boston, a job which includes organizing concerts and the yearly Lucia pageant in December, which normally draws 1,000 plus attendance. Since 2022, Jenny also works with the kindergarteners in the Swedish school. And Jim Recht is a psychiatrist and substance use specialist with more than 30 years of experience in community mental health settings, most recently at Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program. He is a faculty member at Harvard Medical School and provides teaching and supervision to medical students and trainees. Jim is also a member of Climate Code Blue, a Boston-based group of health professionals whose mission is to amplify the voices of vulnerable communities fighting climate change. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to stop sharing this. Um, and I will now turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you very much, Shira, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We were planning on starting our presentation with a news clip. If you could put that on, Shira, that would be great. And while we wait, maybe you want to say something about from when this is.
Oh, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Well, this evening, actually. Well, the news clip that you'll see was taken in 2015. I believe it was about a year after I started the nature healing walks. And this particular one was done in the Blue Hills and was covered by Tina. I think her last name was Paulson. And I believe she was a reporter for NPR or Greater Boston. Just want to make sure I give credit.
Hey, let me know if you're all able to hear this. Can you all see it? Perfect.
To our NewsHour share, something that caught our eye that we thought might be of interest to you too. Boston's inner city often sees a spike in violence during the summer when many students are out of school and on the streets. But as Tina Martin from PBS station WGBH reports, one mother is trying to change that trend by exposing young people to the outdoors.
Amid trees, chirping birds, and rugged rocks. It wasn't always easy to do, but Judith Foster smiles as she leads her group on a 3-mile walk through the Blue Hills Reservation in Milton. The walks are part of her HERO group.
Healing, Empathy, Redemption, Oasis.
Foster started the walks as a way to heal from her own tragedy.
About 8 in the morning or so, I got home from work. And that was the news I got home to, that my son had been murdered.
4 years ago, Judith's youngest child, Paul, a senior at a college in North Carolina, was shot and killed at a nightclub, just a few weeks before he was set to graduate with a degree in computer science. Paul's murder is still under investigation, but during her time of loss and grief, Judith says she found solace in walking the Blue Hills.
He had a love for nature, and I thought by doing this, being close to nature, I'd be close to him.
So every Saturday, she invites people to walk with her.
And we have to just do something to break the cycle, break the mold. Nobody would think this is something that would be fun at the end of the day. You think nature walk, you're thinking, oh, come on, it's some tree hugger stuff. But at the end of the day, anybody can do it and anybody can enjoy it.
25-year-old Bakari Johnson uses the walks to get away from the noise of the city. He hopes to keep walking all summer to stay away from trouble.
It is a worry, but personally, I feel like I've been not just lucky so far. I feel like part of the reason I'm still here is because I've also been smart.
And don't be afraid to touch the trees, the leaves.
It's just really simple, right? What we're doing is taking a walk in nature, which is a tremendous resource that is available to us. We're doing it with friends.
Pastor Mark Scott, co-chair of the Boston Youth Violence Reduction Task Force, hopes as it gets hotter and violence spikes, young people will choose to take a few steps to keep the peace.
We're constantly being hit and bombarded by this kind of violence, and we have to react to it every time. But there are things that we can do traditions that we can create, like coming out at 12 noon on a Saturday to take a walk in the woods that are right next to your city.
The Hero group gets bigger as the weeks go by. The walks are free and open to anyone. Judith believes her son Paul would approve.
He's smiling. He's loving it. I find strength in knowing that I'm doing something that he loved to do.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Tina Martin in Milton, Massachusetts.
Thank you. So we'll start with a presentation.
So yes, that's the last few years I've been doing the nature walk. So 2015 till now, we've gone to once a week, from once a week to once a month now. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to train some trainers in the future as soon as this bill, S791, Nature as a Prescription, that we'll be focusing on throughout this webinar has been passed. And so I'd like to give Jim and Jenny a chance to just to talk about themselves really well, and then we'll get into the bill and why we need the healing.
Thank you so much to the National Empowerment Center for organizing this. I'm sorry about my very lengthy bio there. I felt a little embarrassed. So I didn't need to talk more about who I am, but rather what drew me to H.E.R.O Nurturing Center. And I think coming from Sweden, nature is very ingrained in our culture and in our everyday life. As you know, it's a very cold country, and don't go outside, you go insane. And in schools and all the rest of it, I think it is very much part of our culture. So I bring that with me. And obviously a big lover of nature, as so many people are. But having become friends with H.E.R.O, with Judith, and having learned about the mission, Judith often say that we are political beings, whether we like it or not. And I love that saying because that's what it comes down to. And when we are in nature, we become friends with nature. And just like I become friend with a human being, that means I want to protect them from evil. And that's how I feel about the nature healing walks and the H.E.R.O mission, that being in nature makes us want to protect it. And this speaks to our climate justice aspect of H.E.R.O. And I also love the togetherness aspect of being together in nature. And it's free to be in nature. It's free to breathe, and to be able to do this activity together across various unfortunate barriers that often divide us to actually meet is another wonderful aspect that drew me to the work. So Jim.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I met Judith, I believe it was still during COVID, and met her through Jenny. Jenny introduced us. I met Jenny just a couple of years before that in the Poor People's Campaign, and was looking for something that that I found to be missing in my work as a community psychiatrist. I had most recently been working with a sort of a mobile psychiatric treatment team. Some people some participants today, some attendees may be familiar with this. It was a PACT team based in the city of Boston. PACT is an acronym for Program for Assertive Community Treatment. And our mission was to work with individuals with severe mental illness who were living in the community, who had were living independently, had their own apartments, etc. The work of our team was to help people stay in their apartments, stay independently housed. And that was our first goal. And our second goal was to reduce emergency room visits as much as possible. And what I found, not intentionally, but as I became more comfortable and developed more meaningful relationships with patients on our team. We had a caseload of about 70 patients altogether. As I got over the years that I worked there, as I got to know people better, and people began to feel more trusting in me, more confident of themselves, meeting with me, rather than meeting in our office or meeting inside their apartment building, when we could, when weather permitted, we would have our visits going for walks. We'd have our visits in parks near where my patients lived. And that was a really extraordinary experience. It may sound like a simple thing, but just that experience of being with people, being with patients that I care for in nature, it felt like change was made available in ways that I hadn't contemplated before. So when I heard about the HERO initiative that Judith had designed and was running, I was really excited to participate in that and to learn more about it. And as I say, during COVID, I met Judith for the first time. I attended one of her, I guess you would call it courses, introductory courses. And that was a series of about a half a dozen nature walks over about 6 weeks. And for each walk, we prepared not just by spending a little time talking with each other about how we were doing, but also reading selections curated by Judith from the autobiographies of Frederick Douglass. So that sort of integration of social justice and individual liberation and the experience of being with other like-minded, sort of sympathetic people in nature was really extraordinary. And my hope is that we can provide experience like that on a larger scale. Thanks.
Put out by the Center for American Progress. It was called the Nature Gap. Once I read that, I was really, really affirmed in the work that I had been doing and promoting nature as a healing conduit. And so through that study, I again gained momentum because I was getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit just not, people weren't moving fast enough, as I explained to Dr. Jim, who agreed with me at the time. And so not only did the Nature Gap study come out during 2020, the Surgeon General at the time talked about the epidemic of loneliness. So those two things combine with the fact that when I started the nature walks, folks would come, they would participate, but I found that the people who really need this eco healing, as I call it, they weren't able to find the time because of work constraints or family constraints, or the access wasn't there. They didn't live within a certain distance of the park. And so when I started this venture, I would pick people up, where they lived. I'd meet them at their homes or wherever they were, and I would drive them to the Blue Hills And so when I found that the access was an issue, I having conversations with our dear Senator Liz Synergy in trauma I had. Well, she had lost her brother to murder, as I had lost my son to murder. And so out of this shared tragedy was born the advocacy for this bill, which is again S791, Nature as a Prescription. Now, why is this bill important? Well, as Dr. Jim can attest to, and as we can see in our daily lives, there's a growing mental health crisis, not just here in Massachusetts, but in many states, right? So we're facing, again, lots of challenges, accessibility, and
Thanks, Judith. Yeah, the report itself is very extensive, as Judith mentioned, and available. Thanks for posting the link to the report in the chat. Just a couple of points that I would bring up, and then I also want to mention on the positive side some very useful clinical evidence that we have from a program, a federally funded program that has existed in Canada for about 15 years now, that supports the capacity of physicians and other prescribers to actually prescribe nature experience for their patients. But just a couple more things about the nature gap. Some additional findings were that, particularly for children, the lack of access to regular access to nature, it also appears to be determined by race and socioeconomic profile, such that children in poorer families, working class and poorer families, and families of color throughout the United States tend to have significantly less access, reliable access to safe, healthy nature experiences. The study pointed out that students who spend less time outdoors tend to perform worse on standardized tests, tend to demonstrate less enthusiasm towards school, and tend to have more attendance problems. Now, that doesn't necessarily point to cause and effect, but the associations there are really concerning. There is one American study that showed that just having more tree cover in a neighborhood on the block that a person lives could account for as much as 15% of differences, in this case, improvements in student outcomes. The report also talks about the harms caused by extractive energy systems, extractive energy technologies like coal, oil, and gas that our society has been burdened with and continues to be burdened with. And they point out that as the oil and gas boom in our country has continued over the past 20 years or so, just the construction, the building of the infrastructure is fragmenting natural areas and wildlife habitat, and in many parts of the country is making it that much more difficult to access nature in a reliable and and affordable way. One example that they gave is that throughout the state of Colorado, for example, Hispanic and Latino communities tend to have significantly more fossil fuel infrastructure development nearby than any other racial or ethnic group. And similarly, in Central California, during that California and the nation's fracking boom, that's been correlated with significant amounts of loss of natural areas, and which has also been concentrated near Hispanic and Latino communities. So there's a lot we can do to change this. Accelerating our shift to a green energy future would also go a long way towards making nature more available to people on a local level. And in terms of improving student health and welfare, if we look at the evidence that I mentioned just a few minutes ago that we have from the national program in Canada, the results are really striking. Just one moment, please. This program is, Canada's program is called Park RX, or Park Prescription. In other words, prescriptions that make it easier for people to get to nearby parks. This has been closely studied, and the program has expanded to from just a few hundred people in the early 2000s to tens of thousands of Canadians who have access to this program now, prescribed by thousands of physicians. During the most recent count, nearly 8% of all licensed Canadian health professionals were using these resources. So they've done controlled studies, in other words, studies that compare groups of people who are living their usual routines without additional access to nature, comparing those groups of people with people who have received prescriptions from their physicians and other health professionals for nature experience. And those individuals that benefit from the nature experience have consistently demonstrated a range of health benefits. For example, among adults, the physical benefits include reduced risk of respiratory infections like influenza, overall improved pulmonary function in adults with emphysema, and overall increased longevity. And for children and adolescents, the benefits include decreased risk of developing hypertension in adulthood, decreased risk of developing diabetes, and overall improved physical conditioning. And in regard to mental health, the benefits appear to be equally dramatic, including significant reductions in depression and anxiety, and even improvements in symptoms of attention deficit disorder. So that's a little bit of a summary of the problems, some of the more specific social justice related problems, and signs that we have a solution to them, as evidenced by what our neighbors to the north in Canada are experiencing. Thanks.
And so, thanks, Jim. And to sort of follow up on what Jim was saying, the study goes to an extent to give us key recommendations to pursue. So the goal, and again, these are just goals that the study recommends. And again, this is the study from the Center for American Progress, the Nature Gap study. So the goal is pursue the ambitious goal of protecting at least 30% of U.S. lands and oceans by 2030 in a way that ensures nature's benefits are more fairly distributed among all communities. And they go further by saying increase close to home opportunities, which again I found to be an issue, ease of access to these spaces, create more parks and green spaces in communities and low-income communities, which are often, quote unquote, nature deprived, to ensure access to nature's health and climate benefits. And lastly, increased consultation and meaningful engagement with communities facing nature deficits and empower them to lead in decision-making processes regarding nature resources. Change hiring and workplace practices in government agencies, nonprofits, and foundations to create more representative leadership teams, boards, and staff that reflect the communities they serve. Improve consultation with tribal nations, pursue more opportunities for tribal co-management of natural resources, bolster education and outreach, work to overcome the nature gap among children by bolstering education and outreach programs that promote environmental literacy and access to the outdoors. And again, HERO is the epitome of all of it. And so if you're listening, this is why in 2020, when I read this study, I refer to it to both Jenny and Dr. Jim as my Bible for HERO. Because to my astonishment, they were confirming and saying the things that I had been saying since 2014. And no one was really listening to me, and so except Pastor Mark Scott, actually. And so, yeah, to my amazement, I'm like, oh, okay. So now this actually is a thing and it's scientifically proven. So folks have to listen. And so, thank goodness, well, Senator Liz Miranda had been listening as well. And so she proposed this bill, S791, and that's relative to nature as a prescription. And so what is the bill about? Well, S791 aims to increase access to nature as a healing medication mechanism to medical ailments, mental health issues, and social or emotional trauma. Spending time in nature improves physical, mental health, but not everyone has the time or convenience to get a healthy dose of nature. Well, this bill helps to correct with a gap in the access to nature, especially for those who need it the most. And so we have this document available for you guys online to take a look. So I won't go through all of the aspects, but it does list the key provisions of the bill S791 with, for fear of not repeating that often enough, S791. And so if you guys would just, go online, check it out, and then get back to your state representatives and say to them, this is scientifically proven, or use your own words, actually, but please advocate for this to be a thing. And before I digress and let Jenny talk about the Art to Heart program that we've developed, I've been talking to Dr. Jim about the circumstances that we're facing right now. And as an immigrant woman who came here as a 9-year-old girl, where it's the 50th anniversary of my being here, and I'm a citizen, which means nothing nowadays, and it's the 50th anniversary of women being able to own their own property, being able to make decisions on their own without their husband's permissions. And so I want this to be a pivotal moment for us. Yeah, not only are we being starved, right? This is traumatic. This is societal, communal, and individual trauma on a level that we've not seen before. And as Dr. Jim is a trained psychiatrist that's on this webinar today, he can confirm that the ramifications and the lack of empathy, lack of bare sympathy and compassion that's surrounding us right now is not good for our psyche, for any of us, even the healthiest among us. And so what are the unintended consequences, or intended, if you will, of this moment in our history where we're being violently accosted mentally where it's not a physical abuse, and so we shrug it off, often as we do things that are not physical in this space. But I warn all of you that this type of violence has a more far-reaching effect than if you were being abused physically. Not that any of it is right, but I need for you all who are in the medical field or in the field of holding trauma for other people to know that we're breaking a whole entire generation of people emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And so we've got to prepare these spaces to hold space and create nurturing spaces for people, because we're going to need these spaces, people. And I turn this over to Jenny to talk about how art can heal and does. It's the perfect segue, actually, to put on a photograph, which is the one, the Hero Nature Healing Walk 2, as I'm chatting. It's just so you can see a little taste of a nature healing walk. Mother Nature being the ultimate artist, which we acknowledge as we're out and about in the forest, mainly in the Blue Hills. But just like Judith said, we also have a Art to Heart program where we have events and get together and do art together. Also trying to use natural materials such as rocks, sticks, leaves, and just like Judith was saying, to have these spaces where we get together and have a lot of fun. Let's show a picture of that, actually. H.E.R.O, the photo called Hero Volunteers, please. Just as a little taste from one of our many events. And art, I'm preaching to the choir because, like you all will know, how all the different expressions of art is a way for us to channel our emotions, is the perfect way to be together and to have fun, and let loose. And in all the various musical contexts that I find myself, time after time after time, do I see just the joy, just the relaxedness when people just get together and create. And as I constantly say in the Justice Jams that I'm running for the Poor People's Campaign, this is not about singing beautifully or being a fantastic artist, etc., etc. And I think celebrity culture is not helping us in this respect, right? That you have to earn your living in order to do it. No. Art is for everybody. And I think let's do a little picture of Hero at Nature in the City, please, as just an example of when we are tabling in the outdoors, which is obviously the best place to do art, weather allowing. Very, very, very shortly we will get into our call to action, but just to say how the different expressions of art is such a key stone in the healing for all of us. And also in the age of these things, the mobile phones and the devices, etc. And now we're happy that the internet allows us to bring us together today. But as we all know, nothing beats the real deal of actually being together in person. And I think where I believe it was Mahalia Jackson actually telling Martin Luther King that, or if it was the other way around, when there's something you cannot speak, you can sing it.
So completely spontaneously, before we get to call to action, we can stay on mute and do the favorite song, Lean on Me. Favorite song by remind me. Withers. Thank you, Bill Withers. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are lost, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. So important. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call me brother, sister, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might need somebody to lean on. Can't believe you got me to do that. That says it all, and that we need someone to lean on, and then that is all of us. And I will put our web page in the chat, and in that chat there is all the information you need about next steps. And this is what we're going to do now, a little call to action before we thank you for all those love, and we would have loved to be able to hear you. Next time we'll meet in person. And yeah, please.
So one more thing, I didn't really expound on where the idea for the National Healing Forest Initiative came, right? And so Dr. Jim talked about the Canadian model. That is absolutely where I got the idea, because so my colleague, David Meshalom, who I've been working with for quite some time, he is one of the founders of Speak for the Trees. He brought I don't know if you can see this picture here. I'll try to get it in the chat. Don't know. So it's the National Healing Forest Initiative, Green Spaces Throughout Canada for Reconciliation and Healing. This happened in 2015. So he brought this into my office last year and said, Judith, look at what they're doing. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is my vision come to life. And so I thought, let's not reinvent the wheel, as Jen and I often say. Let's adopt this same model, and we can reimagine it for the United States. And so ambitiously, we've started the U.S. Healing Forest Initiative, because we're confident that the bill S791 to make nature prescriptive will be passed, right? Our wonderful Joint Commission on Finance Chair Paul Feeney, and I believe co-chair Moore, will see the practicality of this bill, and it will go through favorably. And so we'll need spaces for these prescriptions when they're to be filled. So Dr. Jim and colleagues and social workers like Jenny will have spaces to make sure that these are structured spaces, curated spaces, not just wild spaces for folks. Because remember, safety and access and ease of access is an issue. And so if we can garner all the funds that we need to create these spaces all over the United States, and each state had their own version of the nature prescriptive bill, that would be fantastic. Because again, the silo working that we've been doing in terms of mental health, whether it's community or nationally, it's not working. And so with that said, I think that we should try something new. And I'm really, really inspired by Dr. Jim's willingness to look at something outside of the pharmaceutical model that we've had for, however long we've had it. Because the science says that this works. So why not? Let's give it a chance alongside of pharmaceuticals. We're not adverse, and trust me, I have a medical background, first and foremost. So, and I've needed pharmaceuticals even just recently. So in no way, shape, or form saying that we do not need pharmaceuticals. But for the invisible scars that we cannot see often, I think that the first line of defense should be tangible Mother Nature. And she's the only one size that fits all, I always say. And so with that, Dr. Jim, I don't know if you have anything that you want to say before, we thank all the good people that took time out of their busy schedules, family, and, obligations and the others to come and sit with us and listen and learn. And so thank you very much. And I hope you didn't mind my singing too much.
Thanks so much, Judith. No, I really just want to lift up what you are showing us, what you're saying and what you're teaching. I've experienced it myself. And as I say, even before we met, I was able to have this experience with patients, walking in nature, in the community. And I probably shouldn't have been surprised. I was surprised and delighted to see the powerful pro-healing effects. So thanks, and thanks to everybody for joining us this evening.
Now it's time for questions. I think so. Let me just remind folks that we put the H.E.R.O Nurturing Center website in the chat, where there is a link. You will see it as soon as you go in there. A link to the bill and what to do next. And is it H.E.R.O? Will you be helping us with the Q&A?
Yes, I will. So yeah, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We're getting so much positive feedback, so thank you so much for this. Yeah, I just saw a question that's more for me. We will be sending out a certificate of attendance to those who attended this webinar. William has his hand up, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute if you want to go ahead and share your question with us out loud.
Yes. Wow. That's what I want to start off by saying. Thank you so much for this healing space. On the 26th of October, my sister went grim in her health. And in my heart, I was compelled to sing, Lean on Me When You're Not Strong. And she moved her mouth until she had no more heartbeat or breath. So this was a testimony for me for my healing. And I thank you guys for singing it. And you did have no idea. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for this space.
Thank you so much. Thank you
She
so much.
passed on, and we'll celebrate with a ritual, our Indian, American, African nature. We will be doing a a tribal along with our ritual for her on the November 22nd, this month on the 22nd. But that was my song, and she moved her mouth, and she was what they say when you put someone really to sleep for their comfort, because she had been battling with her ailments for years. And some told me, sing that song. And I sang that. And they said, she's actually moving her mouth and her hands. So someone wrote, they were singing along. It reminded me that my sister in her last breath, and they gave me her last heartbeat rhythm. So I have that in a bottle. So you guys don't realize how we can impact, not knowing other people's situation, how impactful we are for one another as a human being, as humanitarians, and how caring we reach out all over the world.
Thank you for that. I'm just speechless. Thank you so much. And you were sowing your seeds and letting us brought us joy by sharing. So thank you so very much.
Judith and Jenny, there's a question about whether there is further training available. I know you're continuing to hold the nature walks once a month now in Boston. Judith, are there any other? Do you have any other advice for somebody who's looking for additional information or preparation?
So you can go to our website for more information. And as so the good news is the Boston Public Health Commission has embraced us. And so I'm hoping that through the Boston Public Health Commission and also through the exposure that this webinar is giving us, we can expand our reach, and maybe even be able to hire and train some facilitators, because it's just Jenny and I right now over these years have been leading the nature walks, and they can become, a bit much. And so physically, I'm not able to expand. But if we were to gain some sponsors, and be able to up our curriculum, then yes, we can expand. Coming spring, we'll restart our once a month nature walks. But again, as I said, we could go back to twice a week if we were able to gain some folks who would want to be trained to become facilitators. Also, Judith, you've been doing crafted nature healing walks with specific group, if it's been youth, if it's been children and so on, and from schools. But also there are many curated nature walks that other folks are doing. There is forest bathing. There is, every time I make an Eventbrite for our nature healing walks, I realize and so if our curated nature walks are what you're looking for, and our style of nature walks are what you're looking for, then we'll be more than happy to curate a nature walk specifically for you or your group. To us, whether it's on our website, and I can give you my cell phone number. It's 754-422-3672. And so you can reach out to me, whether it's our email, H.E.R.O, H.E.R.O Inc. .com. Yeah. And so we'll respond in a timely manner, hopefully. And so please reach out to us, because we are one of a kind in our philosophy, in our mission, and in the way that we curate our nature walks.
Thank you so much. Someone else has their hand up. Digna, or I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you to unmute if you'd like to share your question.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate for this amazing webinar. I think I just wanted to point out that um, it really touched me deeply to know and how you are recognizing how broken is our community emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You just touched that on target. I am a bilingual therapist, and I'm also an immigrant that I provide therapy for victims of crime. And I am having this amazing idea, and thanks to you, and definitely I wanted to join you, but there are healing. It happens that I love rocks, I love sticks, and I love leaves, and I love walks. And I don't believe, I believe that everything, nothing happens by chance. So I definitely wanted to connect with you. I really, really appreciate it's really it touched me such in such a profound way that I would love to be able to connect with you and maybe um, join those walks that I know. Um, and I wanted to incorporate the spiritual piece of it for to help my clients heal. And I'm been doing a lot of work or drawing or whatever, collecting rocks and giving to them. And it's just such an amazing thing. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we can continue working and want to connect. And why not register to train and learn how to train the trainers? Thank you so much.
Yes. I'll write my email in the chat for you, for anybody who wants it as well. Judith's email is there already.
Thank you. Let's see.
You're welcome.
We have so many comments. A lot of positive comments. If you have more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Um, We have one comment. I heard a children's mariachi band sing De Colores at a Dia de los Muertos event this past Saturday, and I sang along the parts I knew. And when the song ended, it brought a calm that I had not felt in a really long time. I am oh so grateful for that. Yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think that speaks to the power of music. Um,
Oh, thank you. Jenny's idea to go all solo and a cappella. Thank you. Very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Do you have any more songs? Oh, Jenny's a singer and musician, not I.
if you have
Whenever there are no more questions, definitely.
Okay, we have someone else raising their hand, so that's Maggie. I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Hello, everybody. My question, I am in Northern California, and this is basically a world-renowned tourist location with the redwoods and just the amazing beauty. However, being so rural, and this is California's most dense Native American areas in terms of population. But interestingly, there is not a ton of, I suppose it comes to part of it, a huge part, is transportation with being so rural. But interesting living here, and I currently work in the social services and independent living realm. But I was a teacher for a very long time, and just mind blowing how many students would never ever go outside and then it's right there. But just curious if anyone is aware of any of this officially occurring in California, because this is something that that has been coming to me, and for probably over a year now, and just even in my own healing and for my own sanity, I have to be in nature every single day, or else I do start to lose my mind. So if there is any information, it would really be good to know, just simply across the U.S. as well, just because of collaborating with others and networking and stuff and sharing information. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the passion and just the dedication of just supporting our human healing process. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for those comments. So this is entirely part of our mission, is to connect with every state, all 50, all 51, and get a contact where we can, again, have you guys who live in that state advocate for your state representative or your senator to introduce similar bills to make nature prescriptive. What we'd like to do, again, is de-silo the work, right? And so every state, if we work in conjunction to create these healing spaces, then again, we can start the societal, communal, and individual healing process level that I think has not ever happened before. Right? And so if you'd like to be our contact for that, that would be wonderful. If you have an email address, you can drop in the chat and Jenny and I will contact you. But I was planning on, and we were planning on starting the new year, getting in touch with every state, whether it's a friend that we already have or an ally that we'll make. And so that this is a multi-pronged approach that we're using to create healing on a level that's not been created before. And to give you a little bit of context to what you said about the lack of outdoor. So I do these research often where, according to the EPA, and did you know Americans spend 93% of their time indoors? Yeah. So I'm hoping that because of this information that we're sharing tonight, folks will again be encouraged to spend more time in nature and to build a relationship with Mother Nature. Because as Jenny said, when you have a relationship with a thing, a person, or a place, you're more likely to want to protect her, protect it, protect them. And so, again, the more we develop the relationships that we have together with each other, it will also speak to the epidemic of loneliness that we didn't get to delve into. Because, again, the Surgeon, not this Surgeon General, but the one prior, he talked about the epidemic of loneliness. And so this concept of the Healing Forest Initiative and even the nature walk that we do, it gives us a chance to be in community. It gives us a chance to heal on a societal level, on a communal level, and we're just not alone as much at all. And so there's a type of unseen healing that happens when one, you're being told the truth, right? Because truth is also healing, and factual information is also healing. So not only do we take folks on nature healing walks and speak to you and do art therapy, but we also about and educate about the importance of emotional intelligence awareness. So we're not just about building up Mother Nature, but we're also about building up people from the inside out with information, factual information. And so again, we're about education, connection, and advocacy. And so this is why we're not political, so to speak, because we're a nonprofit, but we would love to advocate for, again, policy changes that will affect not just people on an individual level, but on a societal level. And I digress. And Jim, if you have anything, or Jen, and thank you all for joining us. Please, Jim.
I don't know what to say. I'm overjoyed. I'm hoping that people reach out to us. Hopefully you see, to our participants, you see our emails we posted in the chat. And I'm seeing some super inspiring messages in the chat. Oryx is going on daily nature walks. Nina's going to be writing poetry. This is just couldn't be better, couldn't be healthier. So thanks everyone. Thanks for being such a wonderful community, and we look forward to collaborating.
For sure.
Thank you, everyone. We have another person, Trenda, who just raised their hand, so I'm going to ask them to unmute as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your vision and the research with us. And your beautiful authenticity is coming through just virtually in a powerful way. I'm wondering, was there any messaging or pre-meetings before just going into the forest? I would imagine that some people may not exactly feel safe just going into the forest with a bunch of people that they don't know. So could you give us like any kind of a bridge that was formed before you just disappeared into the forest?
Oh, I could say just from my experience as a participant, yes, in fact. And it's such an excellent question, because one of the most powerful parts of this experience is the structure that Judith has created, in which people meet together first and then review their experience afterwards. So there's a community experience to begin with, then the walk, and then sort of a reconvening at the end. And we also actually had homework assignments. I mean, nothing overwhelming or rigid but the reading assignments were extremely mind expanding and moving, and those included selected excerpts that Judith had chosen from the oh, I'm really sorry, I'm just drew a blank, from the if you can help me out, Judith, from the autobiographies of
Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass. Yeah. And that helped me understand a dimension of Douglass's life and experience that I was really ignorant of before participating in this the HERO program. Everything about Douglass's life was integrated with his experience in the natural world. Everything about his own personal growth, his liberation and independence, was rooted in his experience of the natural world. And so that was a really priceless part of the nature immersion. So that's my 2 cents as a user.
Yeah. Actually, may I add to that we forgot to say one of our programs or yearly events for a few years now is the reading of Frederick Douglass, calling it Walking the Road to Resilience with Frederick. So thanks for reminding us, Jim, of that.
So yes, we do gather, as Jim said, and have a little lecture, so to speak, prior to the walk, midway, and afterwards. There's no interrogation, though. We don't dredge up past traumas. We don't do that. If you'd like to share, then that's authentic and organic, and so yeah, we like to keep things organic. That was a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And Jim just proved that he was a great student. So this had the Walking the Road to Resilience with Frederick Douglass happened a few years back. And I remember Jim was busy with COVID and all the things that were going on. And to know that you were present, Jim, this is fantastic. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great question, and really appreciate you sharing your experience with that. I don't see any more questions. Yeah, if people want to type anything in the chat or raise your hand using the raise hand function, please feel free. But Jenny and Judy, would you like to kind of do another song or
another song then? So Zoom has not yet got the function where you can sing together, which is that's why you need to stay on mute. So on the fly, I'm thinking of everyone knows This Little Light of Mine. This has just some new lyrics that I will teach you right now, and you will sing as loud as you want in front of your computer or device. My new Bostonian dad, Walter Cooper, has taught me this. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. And only as I'm about to sing this now, I go, walking. I never thought of the actual. I've been thinking metaphorically walking, right, as we walk on in life. But so this is good in many ways. And the word hope, on a side note, is show into H.E.R.O as well, because we have a hope garden. Hope garden. Do you want to say just a few words about that? We forgot about that.
So the H.E.R.O Hope Garden was our first project that we worked on collaboratively with other nonprofit organizations back in 2018. And actually, that is where I met Senator Liz Miranda at that garden, the groundbreakings. And while the diggers, the community members were digging to turn over the soil, we found a bullet. And as she had come up the street with Senator Collins, and I had no idea they were even in town or even in that block that day. And so that's how we forged an alliance around this bill and the issue of trauma in general. And so as I say to Jenny, and to not belittle the point, trauma is not just about whether it's, my son was murdered, right? And Senator Liz Miranda's brother was murdered. But as I say to Jenny all the time, in this aspect where we assume that trauma is just like bloodshed, right? You losing your job is traumatic. you're losing a friendship that you've cultivated over years. It doesn't have to be a romantic friendship. It could be a broken promise. It could be traumatic for many reasons. And so when we think about trauma, I'd like for us to reimagine how we think about trauma and how, whether ourselves or our neighbors, right? Because we're so interconnected as a community, whether it's a community on the micro level, right, here in Boston, or community, your world community, your brothers and sisters in whether it's Palestine or Jamaica right now who's suffering from Hurricane Melissa. And so we've got to retrain our thinking in terms of how we're being with each other and ourselves, right? And so trauma can be lying to yourself and not being authentic, right? And so think and reimagine how we speak to ourselves and how we speak to each other, whether it's a silent speaking mentally or the overt speaking. So be mindful. And lastly, Thich Nhat Hanh is another, he's Vietnamese. And if you are not familiar with this gentleman and mindfulness leader and, just world peace lover, tree hugger, Thich Nhat Hanh, I've learned a lot from him over the decades. And he's also someone that I refer his writing. His last book, passed away in 2022, but he has this book that I refer to, and it's called No Mud, No Loda. And I invite you all to get a copy and have that become your achievement, if you will. And okay, well, let's do it. Walking in love, living in hope. Let it shine. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine one last time. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. Walking in love, living in hope. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Be well, and we will be in contact soon.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing webinar. Thank all three of you. This was incredible. I did just want to let you all know our next webinar is going to be part of our youth series, and that is going to be November 19th. So please stay tuned for that. We'll be sending out information about that, and we'll, of course, be sending the recording and certificate of attendance for this webinar. But thank you all so, so much for being here, and thank the three of you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.